Sunday Surefire podcast. I'm your host, the commish. Joining me today is the co-host, Aaron Downtown Brown.
Hey, hey.
Aaron, have you recovered from that last second Kansas City Chiefs walk-off blocked field goal on Sunday?
I have. I mean, I guess I'm not the best Chiefs fan to really ask. I know it was exciting for most, but I think as winning a bunch of Super Bowls as a Patriots fan, a lot of the season wins don't really matter to the postseason. So, hey, if they go undefeated for the entire year, then I'll be a lot more happier, but I'm just still crossing my fingers at this point.
I hear you on that. It's almost when your team's so dominant, it's almost like the regular season games don't matter. But hey, I was just happy the Chiefs finally caught a break on something, man. I mean, nothing ever seems to go their way.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. Hey, the funniest thing I did here was I said that I saw on Twitter that someone was complaining that the refs actually blocked that field goal too.
I wouldn't put it past them. Maybe they let them get a like 5 step head start, just
Yeah,
like they let the Kansas City offensive lineman get a head start when the game's on the line some other week. So,
that's right.
but hey, Chiefs are marching on. It's 9-0 now, so we'll see if they can keep it rolling. I'm not optimistic on that. I think that the defense can't carry them every single week like they have so far. Most weeks this year, not giving up more than 20 points in any game yet. So we'll see how that goes for Kansas City. They'll be there in the mix at the end to be sure. But we're talking some week 11 daily fantasy football here, folks. We have our bullish buy category where we talk about the high price players that are going to pay off of their high costs in these DraftKings contests that utilize the salary cap. We have our too deep segment where we tell you which defenses to plug into the bottom of your lineup. And then speaking of the bottom of lineups, we have our pick six category where we talk about a couple players that are undervalued that are going to be provide a lot of bang for their buck at cheap costs. And we talk Thursday night football as well around here, so we'll definitely make sure we touch on that, Aaron. But we'll start with you. Why don't you go ahead and tell me who your bullish buy is in Week 11?
Yeah, so this this week I got a couple guys that I definitely like, but I wanted to go a guy I think when it came down to I did pay up on a few more guys, but I think I'm the most bullish on David Montgomery this week for 6,500. He's cheaper, but he's playing the Jaguars. Detroit are minus 800 favorites this week playing the Jags. So, I don't think the Lions are really going to need a whole lot of passing and maybe in the first quarter or something. But, I think it's safe to say the Lions could score, over 35 points here. A lot of that can be on the ground. So I really like David Montgomery to really have a nice game and punch in a few scores. So he is my bullish buy for this week.
Montgomery is one of the safest guys to hit the end zone just about every single week. I love betting on his anytime touchdown props, whether straight up or part of a parlay. So he's a great call. He's actually in my lineup as well this week. He was not my bullish buy, not my most expensive player, but I did carve out some room myself for David Montgomery. So I'm obligated to like that call from you, Aaron. On my side of things here, I went with Devon Achane of the Miami Dolphins going up against the Las Vegas Raiders coming into Miami. Cost us $7,200, so paying up a little bit, but Achane, I mean, he gets it done just about every single week, both on the ground and catching passes. He's got at least 5 balls in each of his last 3 games. Just a big staple of their offense is getting him the football and hopefully in space and to make it work. Wasn't quite able to hit some home run plays last week on Monday night against the Rams defense, but the Raiders defense should be providing plenty more opportunities there, ranked pretty low there against running back. So they've kind of had their way against them. Achane stays involved in this game plan, I think, throughout this one maybe while they're salting away the lead late in the game. But I guess give me your quick thoughts on HM before we talk about some defenses.
Yeah, I love A-Chain as of late as well. I mean, one of the things that was surprising, you just see a whole lot less usage of Mostert and Wright now too. So A-Chain had a lot more as far as splits go, a lot more touches in the game on the ground as well. So he's already doing it through the air and he's getting more rush attempts too. So I definitely love that call. A-Chain's turned into a pretty safe play now.
Agreed. And Aaron, when we talk about stacking, typically people think about the quarterback and wide receiver, maybe a quarterback and a tight end. But we have a different type of stacking that we like to do in our DFS contest. Aaron, can you quickly tell me what that is for the listeners
Ooh,
out there?
I think I see what you're throwing down here. Yeah. If we go into defenses here, I have a feeling you might have Miami defense this week because I think as we know, if a team is winning, right? A lot of times at the second half, you got to run the ball. So if you got, so I guess I'm gonna guess you have A Chain in the Miami defense this week.
Ding, 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 ding. Gold star for Aaron. His team's 9-0, and he's 1-0 here
Woohoo!
on the Sunday Surefire Trivia Show. Maybe we can do one of those sometime. That'd be fun. But yes, yes, sir, you got it. Going Miami Dolphins defense, $3,000 to get him into your lineup. Going up against the Las Vegas Raiders, like you said, I mean, usually involves the stack with the running back and then the defense on the other side. They'll be running in the second half, most likely with Achan. But also, I mean, it also puts the Raiders likely behind the eight ball to have to keep up in this one. So the Raiders they're just a complete mess, man. I mean, whether it's Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell when he made his cameo appearance, it hasn't been great for Vegas this year. They're ranked dead last against opposing offenses. So this is definitely one of the teams that you want to attack and play them against. And the Dolphins weren't even the most expensive defense on the slate in this one either. So I'm just going with the Miami defense against the Raiders, not overthinking it, Aaron.
How much were they again?
3,000 big ones.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely good value. I mean, I think one another thing that I like seeing over that over Monday is their play against a healthier LA Rams team too. I mean, they pretty much just held the Rams to field goals all game. I mean it was a big game for the Rams too. So definitely Miami's defense stepped up and definitely this week playing against the Raiders is a little definitely a weaker opponent. So that's a good play there. I went slightly cheaper this week. I have actually the Cleveland Browns for 2,600 against New Orleans, right? So just another, historically good defense the last couple years. They're still a top five pass rush on D, and actually New Orleans is the number one worst blocking pass blocking graded team in the league. So that's one I didn't really want to overthink too much as well. Honestly, I think it's a pretty good bargain for 2,600. And I really don't think New Orleans can really kind of keep up a winning streak as we know, after firing their head coach. How long can really that can last? As we know, sometimes those new interim head coaches they get a little bit of camaraderie going, but I don't really think that can be sustained with how many injuries they got on offense for the rest of the season.
Yeah, they come off that sugar high and they do just enough to ruin your parlay. I mean, it's almost like I'm saying that from experience. So thanks a lot,
Right?
Atlanta, for taking care of business last week on the money
Yep.
line. Really appreciate that, guys. Yeah, like when the final leg of your 7 leg parlays don't hit, that's always good.
Ooh.
But we'll brush past that as quickly as possible. But I like where you're going with that. I mean, the Saints coming off that sugar high, firing Dennis Allen, mercifully firing Dennis Allen if you're a Saints fan. Definitely a good thing for them in the long run. But they got a nice bounce back division win against the Falcons last week. I also think that balloon is going to pop here, and that rounds us out pretty well into our pick six category here. I'm actually playing two players against this New Orleans Saints defense. I'm going Cedric Tillman for $5,300 and David and Joker for $5,500 in my lineup. Um, I just think the Saints team, they've had injuries on offense. They've had them on defense too. And Marshawn Lattimore is gone now as well, traded over to Washington a couple of weeks ago. So they're missing their leader on the back end, which I think helps Cedric Tillman the most as he's now stepping into that top wide receiver spot in this Browns offense. So I like him fired up in this one. It's also a sneaky revenge game for Jameis Winston. I remember it's had a couple
Oh,
of years
yeah,
down there in New
that's right.
Orleans. People might forget about that, but he's going back into the dome. You always know he's willing to chuck the ball around the yard. I don't think this week's going to be any exception. Did not put him in my quarterback slot. Didn't quite have the stones to do that, but I do have two Cleveland Browns pass catchers in my lineup here to start out this pick six category. Aaron, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't mind it at all. I mean, I think the loss of Lattimore, and as I said, I think New Orleans, they can really get uh, ran on as well. So I think they can either way, you can move the ball against New Orleans. So I mean, I think that that could be wheels up for both Njoku and Tillman to fall in the end zone or just have good just receptions and yards. So definitely don't hate that take. I had a similar approach. I went more of the ground game. I'll throw in a sneaky play. I had a Chubb. I got Chubb in my lineup this week. So I think we're definitely targeting that game just in different areas.
Yeah, I guess we just have the Saints getting buried this week. So maybe I'll go back to the well and bet against them this week. Might not be a bad thing to do. So yeah, I mean Chubb is a guy who hasn't really quite fully popped yet coming back from the injury, but he's a guy who, we know Chubb's a machine, and as soon as he gets his feet under him, he's probably going to be back to what he was 3 or 4 years ago. Fingers crossed on that. So yeah, I mean he was a relatively cheap price point. I don't hate to call it on Nick Chubb, especially where I'm also favoring piece of the Cleveland offense myself. But I do have one more player to talk about in this segment here, and I'm going to go to my hometown New England Patriots. There they are, coming off a win, big win for the boys. Finally getting back in the win column after a couple of weeks without one. Finally, Drake May starts and finishes his first NFL win, which was good to see. But I went with Hunter Henry going up against the Rams this week, $3,900. The Rams get the honor of flying across the country on a short week, and I just with the Pats probably with a little bit of momentum on their side here. I like them coming out and competing in this game. I do think they're going to have to throw the ball in this one here more than they did against the Bears, where they're kind of in control of that game. So Hunter Henry, for that reason, was not coming off a big contest over in Chicago on Sunday. But in the 3 games prior to that, he caught at least 5 passes. And I think, like I said, the Rams are going to keep the Pats throwing in this one, which is going to favor some quick passes to Hunter Henry. And the Rams, they're 24th against opposing tight ends in terms of fantasy points allowed. So I'm going to go with Hunter Henry in this one, and hopefully he can get that connection with Drake May going, and maybe even find the end zone this week.
Yeah, we actually have a lot of kumbaya this week. I had not planned on saying Hunter Henry. I debated about it, but he's in my lineup as well, so I can't argue with that call because I'm thinking the same thing. So we're definitely on the same wavelength here this week with some of those plays. So yeah, I agree with you with Hunter Henry. He's a good price. What was it, like 3,900 or
You
something?
got it.
Yep. Yeah, so definitely like Henry Call. And actually Chubb was not my first pick six play. I just threw him in there. My first one is actually a guy that you called out last week, so you may like it. He didn't really turn out, he didn't have a huge game. I think he had like about 9 DFS points, but I'm actually going back to the well with your call from last week and going DeAndre Hopkins against Buffalo this week. I think, Chiefs Bills should be a very intriguing game to watch. I know a lot of people will probably tune in from it just from just a watchable standpoint. But I really like Hopkins' value this week at 5,700. Like I said, it should be a great game to watch. But I even like him in both game scripts. Even if it's not high scoring, I think Hopkins can still get targeted a lot. He'll come down with receptions. He has some crucial plays. I'm hoping for at least. And then obviously high scoring. He's got to be involved as well. So I kind of just like DeAndre a lot this week, just in just that matchup where they can kind of use them all over in the passing game. So DeAndre is my first pick six player.
Well, there you go. I mean, I think this is picking on this game is definitely a good thing. I mean, this has to have a high over under this one. Last time I saw it was in the mid 40s, probably 45, 46, which is good. So you want high scoring over unders if you're going to play team's number one wide receiver. So I think it has the potential to be the game of the week and a playoff rematch. We've seen this matchup in the playoffs, pretty much every year. It feels like it comes down to these two teams in the playoffs. Has not worked out so great for Buffalo, as you know, Aaron. But yeah, I like the call there on Hopkins here. And let's before we move on to our hot takes to close the episode, I want to just want to quickly run through what Ethan had for picks
Ooh,
on
I
this
got one more. I got one more
as
too.
well. And before we do that, I'm gonna let Aaron finish, dude. So I'm gonna let you finish,
Sorry.
brother.
Yeah,
What
let
do you
me
got?
finish. Okay, okay. I won't be too long here. But it's funny though. This is probably gonna be the grossest call in the episode though. So I am kind of excited to call out this guy. I'm going 3,600, so he's pretty cheap. I'm gonna actually go Calvin Austin this week with the Steelers playing against Baltimore. He's only 3,600. It's also another very intriguing lineup. Steelers playing in Pittsburgh too. A little less intimidating than in Baltimore, but it's a great matchup. Ravens secondary has been giving up a lot of yards to the air. They're most vulnerable against slot wide receivers. They're the top worst in receptions, yards, and touchdowns this year to slot wide receivers. After Mike Williams pick up, really got Pickens and Williams on the outside. So I really do think game script wise, Austin could. Um, be involved this week. I think he's going to have to because the Ravens' run defense is great too. So I I'm smelling Calvin Austin's name getting called a little bit. He's been definitely hit or miss this week, but he had a season high targets last week, six targets and a couple crucial catches against Washington. So he's my sneaky, gross pick six play of the week.
It's definitely gross. I mean, you don't often trot Calvin Austin into your lineup very often, but I kind of like the thought process. He's playing around 60% of his snaps in the slot, according to PFF data. So I don't hate that call targeting Baltimore secondary. I mean, hell, we saw how fun that Thursday night game was to bet the over on and crush the over on
Yep.
last week when the Ravens were on the field and in prime time, just showing the world they couldn't cover anybody, especially anyone named Jamar Chase. And Calvin Austin's not going to be confused with Jamar Chase anytime soon by any means. But yeah, I like what you're going with. If you need a super cheap play, you can do a lot worse, especially targeting that defense. But now, I was interrupted last time, rightfully so. But I'm going to get to Ethan's calls here across the board. For his bullish buy, he's going with Jahmyr Gibbs for $7,300. Kind of the same logic that you and I had with Montgomery. He's just paying up a little bit more to get Gibbs into his lineup, and he had the same kind of thought process that I did as well, stacking my defense with a running back in the bullish buy spot. So for his defense, he's going to go with the Detroit Lions. They are the most expensive unit on the slate this week. $3,800, and then his two pick six players. He was hand holding with me on Cedric Tillman, $5,300. Feels like a good value. Ethan agrees, and then Juwan Jennings also $5,300 against the our who's the friend playing this week, Aaron? Or on him
Seattle,
playing
Seattle.
Seattle divisional game. Okay, yeah, so they crushed Seattle the last time out there, especially through the air. So I guess any thoughts, blanket statement on any of Ethan's picks before we get into some hot takes to wrap this thing up?
I like the thought process on all of them. I mean, of course, just Jahmyr Gibbs kind of conflicts a little bit with my Montgomery call. Believe it or not, I actually think Montgomery's somewhat safer. I feel like just Detroit won't, like I said, they won't have to pass as much. So I think Montgomery's just cheaper. As we know, Gibbs is a monster too, though. But I thought about Gibbs, but I went Montgomery.
Like Gibbs, like I said, I like the thought process on that. I think it's solid. I just would rather pay a little bit less and go with Montgomery in there, where especially in a game where we think they're going to be grinding it out. I think their do you know what their nickname is? Have you heard of it? The two running backs there,
Oh,
Montgomery and
Sonic and
Gibbs,
Knuckles, right?
Sonic and Knuckles. I
That's
think it's going
right.
to be more of a game for Knuckles than Sonic, I guess. So
I agree.
Aaron agrees, and Ethan's not here, so we'll just I'll vote him 2-0. So
There we go.
that's what we'll do. But yeah, hot takes, Aaron. What do you got? Fire one at me. Go.
Ooh, so I'm gonna do a combination of a lot of my plays on the show tonight. So I'm gonna say Monty actually scores two touchdowns. Lions score over 30 points. Take the Cleveland +1 and DeAndre Hopkins reception over. So that'll be a pretty juicy parlay, I think. I don't know the odds yet, but I'll definitely throw it in the Discord when I find the odds. But so once again, that's Monty scoring two touchdowns, Lions over 30 points, Cleveland +1, and DeAndre Hopkins receptions over.
All right, Aaron's trying to pay off the mortgage with this the
That's
parlay.
right.
Hey, there are less fun ways to pay off the mortgage. That's for damn sure. So I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm gonna go with an all touchdown parlay for my hot take. I'm gonna go with just every guy that I've talked about so far. Again, that's Tavon Chan, that's Cedric Tillman, David Njoku, and Hunter Henry. All to score touchdowns. So four guys hit the end zone. DraftKings, for those who bet on DraftKings, they usually have pretty good touchdown parlays. Sorry, minimum four players. So if you want to wedge those four guys in there and then use a boost to jack up the odds even more, do that. It's definitely going to be easily over plus 1,000 odds for those players in particular. So jack those odds up there with those ones, and make sure you're following us each and every week as well, so you can keep getting this great content here. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. All right, let's keep it rolling here, Aaron. Let's get into some Thursday night football coming up here before you know it. Each and every week, this game comes up on us every week, and it's good. It's kind of almost like the start to the weekend when we get into talking some Thursday night ball. And this week we got a good matchup, NFC East contest between the Washington Commanders taking their show on the road at the Philadelphia Eagles. Philly opens up as a minus 3.5 point favorites at the moment. Over under is currently sitting at 48.5. So this is should be a good competitive contest between two good football teams. As we get into later in the season, now we're past the halfway point of the 2024 campaign. Washington is coming off a tough loss to Pittsburgh, where the Steelers are the Eagles rather are entering this one here coming off a win against the Dallas Cowboys, blew them out. But the Cowboys are a joke. But it's all good. So we got Thursday night football here. Good matchup. I guess. How do you see this game playing out before we get into our captain's picks and all that?
Um, I like the Eagles. I'll just flat out say it. They've been playing really good football as of late. They've been putting together some really, solid games, both on their offense and defense. I think it's really their defense that's coming together really, really well as of late. Definitely climbing the ranks. In the for their pass rush, right? They're actually pretty dominant lately too. Their secondary's getting better. So they're definitely figuring out a lot of stuff. So every year you got some, I guess mid-season teams that are kind of getting it together, getting that click, I guess a good teams start getting and start making runs for the playoffs. So I kind of have that feeling with the Eagles right now where they just have great momentum. They're playing at home. As far as betting goes, the spread started at 3, and like you said, did go to 3.5. I liked that so much. I actually even say, hey, take them -6. I actually like Eagles -6 this week. I think they can win by a touchdown, but that's kind of my quick 2 cents on this matchup.
Okay, yeah, I like Philly to win the game as well. Definitely on the money line. Um, I think Washington is a good football team. Jay Dale's obviously a great story. The fun stat about them is, I mean, their offense as a whole, they have 3 turnovers this year. It's the most since they started tracking turnovers, like 90 years ago or something crazy, something crazy like that. So Washington's a great story in this one, but I do think that Philly comes out on top in this game. That the hook of there that they threw on the 3.5 has me a little bit leery in a division matchup. I don't really like jacking the spread up in this one. I actually want to take the hook off of this, take slightly less odds to get Philly -3, and I want to tack on a conservative over 40 in this one. So take 8.5 points off the over under. Take the hook off the -3.5. Now, for those that don't know, the hook is the half point that they attach to the spread at times. So -3.5 points. The half point is the hook. So I'm taking that off and I'm going over 40 points on a conservative over. I'll probably just parlay those two together and probably end up somewhere around -150 odds or so, or plus 150 odds or so in doing so. So that's kind of what I want to bet in this one. I think Philly comes out. It's going to be a close game, but the Eagles, like you said, getting into they're getting into playoff form. They're a team that's been in the playoffs the last few years, and they know what it takes. So give me Philly to win this game outright. As far as our captains lineups goes, we'd like to talk about some daily fantasy matchups on DraftKings. These players feature a salary cap where you put a 6-player lineup together, sort of like the traditional games that DraftKings offers. But the only unique feature in this one is that your captain's play each and every week is uh, one it costs 1.5 times the player's normal salary to assign them in your captain's role. But for doing so, you get 1.5 times the points that player typically scores. So in my case here, I'm going to go expensive for my captain. I've kind of been cheaping out the last few weeks with kickers and stuff like that, which has been fun, but I'm not doing that this week. I ain't going there. So I'm going to go expensive on the Philadelphia Eagles side. I'm going to go Saquon Barkley for $15,900. Just absolutely laying the cash out there for Saquon. Jalen Hurts in the last few weeks has absolutely crushed Barkley in 2 of the last 3 contests in terms of his overall ceiling. That's because I feel like they end up at the 1 yard line constantly, this Eagles offense, and you typically that's running back territory. I mean, if Saquon was on any other team but this offensive line without a quarterback who could just fall forward for a yard every time, I mean, he would be having a season for the ages. I mean, he's still having a good year, but Hurts has been crushing him lately. I think Water's going to come find its level this week on this one. Hurts is not going to score 3 1 yard rushing touchdowns every single week, and I think they get Saquon back in the end zone this week, maybe even more than once in this contest against the Commanders. So I think they got Saquon in there to help win these tough division games, and I think this is a week where he's going to showcase all that ability again and hit the end zone at least once on Thursday night.
Yeah, Saquon's been just highlight reel literally each week. So um yeah, to your point, does he fall in the end zone? I think Hurts, come down, what was it, 2 last week, stealing a few from him. Definitely is a watch out. That actually is why I kind of leaned away a little bit. I have Barkley in my lineup for sure, but I want a different route. I did go slightly cheaper because I wanted to get a couple the big names in this matchup. But yeah, I mean, you can't really. hate Saquon. So if you like your lineup, then definitely go for it if you got Saquon at captain. But I went cheaper. I'll kind of go into mine. I went 8,400. I actually went Zach Ertz as my captain. Definitely a little cheaper play out of the stars in the game, but he's got the eighth most targets at the tight end position this year. I do think he should keep it up this week with Philly. I think the target should continue this week, right? Right. I think as we think this game should go. I don't think Washington can run away with it. So I think Daniel's gonna have to continue to target Ertz. So Ertz is my captain for this week.
There you go, leaning into the revenge game narrative as well.
There we go. That I didn't. I
Yeah,
don't know why I didn't even think about the revenge game,
no.
but definitely
I,
revenge game for Ertz. Yeah,
I was waiting for it. I'm like, oh, he's going to drop the revenge game line. He's going to drop the revenge game line, and then nope, didn't do it. So
didn't happen. Yeah.
that's why you have a co-host on here, man. Just pick each other up when we fall. I got you, brother. Yeah. I mean, look, Zach Ertz, ageless wonder. I mean, he's putting together a solid tight end season this year. So I don't hate the call. Especially at a cheaper price point. I usually build cheaper price point captains when I fill out my lineups. It's pretty rare for me to go out on a limb with a high price guy because it limits you what you could do on the back end of your roster. So I'm fighting that in trade this week, putting Saquon into my lineup. Well, before I get to my bargain play on this, we'll just talk about Ethan's quickly. He's going with Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's just paying the money, no doubt, leading into the fact that Hurts has put up close to 30 fantasy points 3 straight weeks, which has been great if you've had Hurts in fantasy leagues. But he's going with him on the DFS front again. So I probably don't hate the call either. I mean, it's expensive is the tough part. The most expensive player on the slate overall. But I guess give me, if you have any quick thoughts to Hurts as a captain, let me know.
Yeah, I mean it's safe. I mean it's not Ertz, but it's Hurts. Um, yeah, but yeah, no, like I said, I don't think that's really gonna fail you. It's really, hey, can you find the cheap bargain plays to kind of make up for it as you get down to the nitty gritty. So that's the part where it's like almost a dice roll. I think we'll cover that next. But as long as maybe your dice roll guy can maybe fall in the end zone and maybe have at least one or two big plays, then you sometimes can be fine with that.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of those dice roll guys, we call it our bargain section. Aaron, what do you who are you throwing those dice on this week?
I got a catch this week. So I have a cheap guy, but I'm gonna just remind everybody just how my lineup is. Zach Ertz is actually my value too, right? So I think you called that out a few weeks ago. Going cheap at captain with Zach Ertz, it allowed me to I got both quarterbacks starting, both running backs starting. Zach Ertz as my captain. I got one cheap guy, but we'll definitely see how he goes. But honestly, I think when you go Zach Ertz this week, you'll be happy with who you can fit in your lineup.
Okay. Yeah, I mean Ethan went on the cheap side too. He went with Jake Elliott, kicker for the Philadelphia Eagles. Kickers are sneaky good value plays a lot of the time because all it takes is if they hit 3 field goals and then boom, they've already paid off. Like for around anything
Yeah,
around $5,000, all of a sudden you're getting to close to 3x pretty quickly, especially if there's some longer field goals in there. So I don't hate it. I mean, do you have any kicker thoughts? Kicker thoughts in this game? I guess one way or the other while we're talking the position.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about Elliott is he's got long range too. So I mean, he can hit from 50 plus yards too. So that can give you, what is it, five? That'd be 7.5. Yeah, 7.5 points on a 50-yard field goal as your captain.
Yeah, the only worry with a guy like Elliott is that the Philly offense willing to go for it on fourth down. I feel like they have weeks where they just say like screw the kicker. It's almost like Nick Sirianni's going against Jake Elliott in his fantasy league some weeks.
Yeah,
It feels like the way they just continue to go
for
for it and
sure.
go for it and go for it. And especially if it's a 4th and 1, they're just going to line up and go get that first down. So that's the risk with Elliott, but it's $5,000. You got to cheap out somewhere in these things. So I'm not going to hate on anybody's bargain play this week because my bargain play is easily the grossest bargain play that I've ever thrown out in my 3-year tenure here hosting the show at Sunday Surefire. So I guess before I reveal this name, please, folks, hit the subscribe button right now because after you hear me say this, you might not want to. I'm going to go with a rookie, and you might be thinking, okay, Jane Daniels, he's a rookie, he's really good. Put him in there. Philly doesn't really have many offensive rookies. Who could it be? No, it's a Washington rookie. It's a tight end, and I know you're not going to like it because you're going with Zach Ertz. I'm going Ben Sinnott,
Okay, yep.
Ben Sinnott, whatever the hell you pronounce it. We don't know because he hasn't done a whole hell of a lot this year, and they haven't been calling his name a ton. But I'm going with the rookie tight end out of Kansas State. I'm paying up $200, not $2,000. It's not a typo here. $200. That's right. For the cheapest guy you can find on the whole slate, Ben Sinnott, $200. And look, admittedly, this is a play where I went expensive a captain with Barkley. I also have Jalen Hurts in my lineup. Terry McLaurin is in there too. So like I had to cut a corner somewhere. So this is what I did. I went with the lowest guy I could find. I'm just going to be hopeful that this guy can catch me like one pass, and hopefully it's like a 5-yard touchdown or something cheap there that everyone hates, and everyone he catches the ball and say, "Oh, that helps no one," like that whole shtick that people throw out there on game day. I'm hoping I can steal one of those touchdowns on this Thursday night. Ben Sinnott, $200.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely juicy. You can't like it from a logic point of view, but the only thing I'll give you there is sometimes with these, high intense conference games, the teams really got to dig things out of the playbooks, get other people involved because they're really gonna have game plans against the stars.
Yeah,
So
no
you
secrets.
actually, yeah, you definitely see that a lot in some of these tight knit matchups. So these guys come out of the woodwork. So I mean, I actually love the call and tournament play. I just hope it hope it works out for you.
Yeah, I just didn't have the stones to put him as my captain and pay up a whole $300 to get him.
Great.
And that's like you want to do some damage, folks, in your captain's lineup. Put Benson on your captain. Let me know how
Yes.
that goes. But that's all the time we have now here. I hope you don't need to go take a shower after our Ben Sinnott conversation here, everybody.
That
But
was pretty
yeah,
dirty.
dirty, dirty, dirty. Like I said, hit that like and subscribe button, folks. Hit us up all over our social media as well. We're on X at Sunday_Surefire, Instagram at Sunday Surefire, Facebook Sunday Surefire. If you still use that, come find us and talk to us. But until next time, folks, peace.